Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks. Today with an interview video, we're going to go to rural Andalucía, the Granada province, and I'm going to interview author Sabrina Ostrowska, and she's going to tell us about her new book and her life down there in rural Andalucía. Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, and I'll tell you a little bit more about NordVPN in just a moment. So let's go to the interview. Hello Sabrina, how are you?
Hello Stuart, how are you? Hello from Andalucía.
Good, yes, that's right, in rural Andalucía. Is that right?
Yes, I'm right outside Montefrio, among the olive groves, on the border of Jaén, Cordoba, and Granada provinces, more or less.
All right, good, good. Now we'll get a little bit of your background, where you're from, what led you to Spain.
I worked as an English teacher abroad in Sweden, the United Arab Emirates, and so on, and used to lead the usual expat lifestyle of an English teacher. And after more or less a decade of traveling, I decided to come back to Europe and settle in Spain. And why in Spain? I really can't tell you. You know, this is one of the premises of my book. I think we came here on holiday and fell in love with the region, especially Andalucía, which is where I live.
Okay, good. Had you been to Spain many times over the years? Was it a holiday destination when you were young or not really?
No, actually, when we came here to look for a house, it was the first time we came to Spain. I used to travel a lot to Italy, so I love the Mediterranean and the lifestyle, and I do know Italian and French, so it was quite easy to pick up Spanish while I was here. But really, we came here because of the property prices. You know, if you want to settle somewhere in Europe and look for a nice property, away from crowds, Spain is still a very attractive place in Europe to look for property. So for us, it was just an added bonus that it's so beautiful here.
Yeah, that's it. And you fell in love with the area straight away?
I think so. You know, when we first came to look for property, we had some agents laid out here in Andalucía, but we landed in Madrid. And of course, Madrid is a fantastic city. But then as we drove down, you know, you enter the province of Jaén and you start seeing the olive hills, the beautiful nature. And we pretty much knew straight away we want to stay here.
So it was love at first sight, let's say.
Exactly.
All right, good. And where are you exactly? So you're in Andalusia. You're in the autonomous community of Andalusia in the province of Granada or Jaén?
Yes, we are in the province of Granada, right outside the village of Montefrio. It's a very picturesque white village. Actually, it was nominated by National Geographic a few years back for having one of the most picturesque views of the villages. Oh. I think we are about to give your audience some idea, about 4 hours drive south from Madrid and an hour and a half to Costa del Sol, where there's a big community of expats.
Yeah, big. What about where you are? Are there many expats or foreign people living there?
Well, that's something that you would be surprised to see if you come here, because where I live, we are not very densely populated. So it's mostly small villages, lots of white villages, you know, with the traditional white houses, and a lot of medium-sized towns. And you will be actually quite surprised how many expat communities are around here in the small villages, and not just Brits. Belgians, French, a lot of Dutch people, and an occasional Polish person like me, yes.
And when you talk to people, do they have the same ideas as you guys had? They were coming down looking for accessible property, or they fell in love with the place as well. They're looking for something different. What brings people to that place?
Well, you will find out when you talk to expats around here that what attracts them to rural Andalusia, as opposed to living on the coast where a lot of people are attracted to, is the quiet lifestyle. So you still have the things that in your programs you talk about, the community spirit, the restaurants, the eating and drinking culture. We still have it here, but it's not on a scale that you will have in a tourist resort in Malaga or Marbella or Fuengirola, so we still have it. But I think people are attracted, first of all, to the property price in inland Andalucía is much lower than on the coast. So for the same amount of money that you probably will buy an apartment in Malaga, you can buy a whole farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And, there are some things... Now, there are some trade-offs, of course, that I write about in my book.
Well, that's it, yeah. So that's it. So now I'll just interrupt the video there to talk about the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. Now, VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and basically it's a service that protects your internet connection and privacy online. Having a VPN means that you can use the internet safely because your data is encrypted and your online identity protected because it hides your IP address. So if you're like me and you connect to Wi-Fi hotspots on a regular basis, a VPN is a must. It's also a good idea to use a VPN when you're browsing the internet at home, because with a VPN you are using the internet anonymously. Nobody will be able to see your browsing history, passwords, usernames, online bank details, or private chats. All the sensitive stuff you want to keep private. And with NordVPN, you can also access content from other countries that might be blocked here in Spain. You just connect to a server in the country where you want to access the content, for example, Netflix USA or BBC iPlayer, and away you go. NordVPN can be used on up to 6 devices, so you can have it on your desktop, your laptop, your phone, your tablet, all at the same time. And it works on both Apple and Android systems. Now, Nord currently has a special offer for their birthday. They're offering 70% off all 2-year plans, and you'll get an extra month for free, plus a surprise gift if you use my special link and code, which you can find in the description section below the video. You can try NordVPN for yourself for 30 days risk-free because of their money-back guarantee. So click the link below and take advantage of this offer. Now back to the video. On the topic of your book, it's called The Crinkle Crankle Wall. We'll speak about it a little bit later in the video as well, but okay, there's a copy of it, great. Your experience, what was it that led you to write the book? Was it just that the experience was book worthy, or so many different things happened that you weren't expecting? What was the reason?
Well, first of all, if someone who's watching this is an aspiring writer, it was not my first book. I have been writing textbooks, and for over 10 years. And as you write, you realize, writing is about writing a little bit at a time. So I started writing this because my husband and I had to separate because he had to travel for work, because this is something, that often happens when you move to rural Spain. You quickly find out that you have no way to sustain yourself financially. Yeah. So there were some periods of time when we had to separate, and being alone in a cottage, I didn't have much to do. So that's when I started to write. And I thought, this is something I've always wanted to do. And now that, my book has been out for only a couple of months, I've been receiving a lot of messages and emails from other expats around here and in Spain, and telling me how relatable they found it. And that's especially, this is not a how-to book. It's not a guide. It's more kind of a memoir of mistakes and pitfalls, written in a humorous way, because at the end of the day, we all have to laugh at it, isn't it? The dreams we have, and then reality.
So what were some of the pitfalls?
Well, I think, I'll start with advice, I think, because that's something I don't write about in my book. But advice, Spain is extremely attractive still, let's hope, even after the Brexit, for Brits, but also for expats from other parts of Europe. The first thing that anyone who comes to Spain should look out for is the prices of property, which are usually extremely elevated for the expats. And this is something, if you come from abroad, you may not realize, because the prices of property are low as they are. But if you live here for 1 year, 2 years, you realize that the same townhouse or a cottage that the local person wants to sell you for 20 or 40,000 euro, is being sold to expats at 80 to 100,000 euro price. I think that's a big issue here, because a lot of my friends have negative equity by buying property during the bubble, and even until now, I think the properties, when they are sold to foreigners, are sold at exaggerated prices, and that's something I don't discuss in the book, because that's not really funny, is it?
No.
But a pitfall that I do write a lot in this book and in the sequel that I'm just finishing is buying rural property and not having water supply, What happens is, because Andalucía is mostly rural area, many people like us don't have a connection to municipal water, so you will end up with a well. And because we are in one of the driest parts of Europe, it happens every couple of years that we completely run out of water. So if someone is buying a property in the countryside and there is a well, that still doesn't mean you will have a water past July or August,
Yeah.
So that's a big issue, I think, to discuss, and ourselves, I have a whole chapter in the book about having to bring water from the nearby village, which requires driving a 4x4 car, a 4x4 trailer, and transporting 1,000 liters of water. This is not for faint-hearted experience, is it?
No. So was that something that you knew before you bought the house, or it was a surprise?
It's something we read about it. There is always the disconnect between your dreams and expectations. And sometimes when we buy property and hope to follow a dream, we don't pay attention to those small details, that can make your life hell later. I did read this advice, make sure that there's water attached to your rural property. But I don't know. We just fell in love with the house and we thought it will all sort itself out, which it didn't. We had to fix it, Another thing, of course, is electricity. Most rural properties won't have any electricity. But that actually is less of a problem now, because the prices of solar panels are so much lower now. So any prospective buyer, you just have to think about it and think that this will cost you another 10 to 12,000 euro extra, depends on how many solar panels you want to install,
Yeah, okay, good. So no water, problems with electricity. So yeah, those are the realities of looking for that rural life. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, because how far away are you from the nearest town, let's say?
Oh, we are not very far at all. We are about 6 kilometers, but it doesn't translate itself in the same way as on the plains of Madrid,
Yeah.
To get there, it takes about 15 minutes through several hills and valleys. So that is had some problems why some properties don't have good electricity or no electricity at all,
Okay. So they're a little bit remote, difficult to get to.
Exactly. Anywhere around here, in Granada or Jaén, it may look very close on paper, the nearest town is maybe only 20 kilometers from us. But again, this is very rugged and mountainous terrain, so it's not always easy. It doesn't make sense for those companies to connect a couple of houses in the middle of nowhere.
No, that's the problem. Well, they talk a lot about the abandoned Spain, and this is probably one of the reasons why it becomes abandoned. The people that sell you these houses, are they foreign people or are they locals? Do they see the chance to take advantage of somebody, or are they people that have, just, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it's some type of a scam.
That's a good question, I don't think, I think the experience we've had with real estate agents, and I described it in my satirical way in the book, is we've had both Spanish companies and English companies, English-speaking companies. No, I don't think it's a scam. I think, well, it is kind of a scam, but it fits on our nostalgia. The Western Europeans will love to go and imagine this rural, bucolic lifestyle. And so they know that and they feed on that, And a ruined cortijo that it makes you imagine things that are impossible,
Yeah.
and where they try to sell you properties that in fact should be just pulled down. I know they look charming, but they're not structurally sound. They don't have basic facilities,
They're not fit for living
But
in.
then on
Okay.
the other hand, many people do it. They take it as a project. They renovate it, and they have lovely memories or write books about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. There have been a few books over the journey about similar experiences. That's right. So, yeah. So that's some of the pitfalls. What are some of the good things now that you're established there? Obviously, you're enjoying the place now. You're enjoying the lifestyle. You're being creative. You're writing your books. So the dream has come true, Sabina, in a way, right?
Well, yes, but you have to work very hard. People imagine the lifestyle here in Spain where you just relax in the sun and sit on the patio with a glass of cava. It's not like this at all. Both my husband and I have like 5 different jobs between us two. But we've always enjoyed it, even when we had hard times renovating the house and different problems we faced. It's the peace and quiet, the beauty. And for us, I write about it, is the community that we entered without very smoothly. Within a couple of months, we knew all our neighbors. We go to parties. We are basically like members of their family. So that's definitely, for me, has always been very important, because for years that Robert and we traveled, you're kind of always in this transient communities where people come and go.
Yeah.
Whereas here, people are very open, very warm-hearted, and extremely helpful. I have some neighbors who have moved here from other northern parts of Spain, and even they say how welcoming people around here are, And, I think you've mentioned it in some of your programs, it's the lifestyle. It's so much cheaper to live here than in other parts of Europe, so much more peaceful. You have more connection with everyone. And for me personally, is to be able to go out for long walks, hiking, mountain biking, being so close to nature. I don't have to travel anywhere to go for a long walk with my dogs. I just go outside and I'm in the middle of beautiful nature. So I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. But yes, anyone has to be aware of both, that it's not just, almond blossoms.
No, which have been in bloom recently.
Yes.
The language aspect, you said you had Italian language skills and French, I think you said. So Spanish, was it a challenge? Probably not as a greater challenge as some other people would have, but now you're moving fluently in the language?
Well, yes, I am. And I've always made a lot of effort. Even before we came here to live permanently, I would take online courses and listen to audiobooks, Another thing is that subsequently, last 3 years, I've been running a language school. So I work with children. So I have learned a ton of Spanish by teaching children and listening to them. Okay. So yes, but it's a great effort, but it's essential, I think. I find some experts who refuse to learn Spanish, they lose a lot in terms of the businesses they can work with, friendships they can make. And just feeling like you're part of this community. You can't really live here if you don't speak Spanish. No. But it's not easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's it. So it is part of it's. I always say it's fundamental to have the language skills to be able to get involved in the community. I mean, even if you don't want to be an active member, you'll always need to be able to communicate with somebody. That's right. In an intermediate level minimum, I would say. That's it.
Yes, I agree with you completely. And, there are a lot of ways nowadays, especially, there are so many online apps and audio courses. There is really no excuse. not to make the effort, and it just opens doors really
Oh,
for you,
of course,
gives
yeah.
you choices,
It does.
what you bring.
Now, you mentioned the work aspect, hard working, a lot of different things on the go at the same time. I think you said 5 different jobs. You mentioned you've got a language academy, you're writing books. I think you also said that you started some type of bed and breakfast. So a lot of different things going on at the same time. How do you manage that? And is it necessary to have such an active professional life to make ends meet?
I think so. The thing about rural Spain, and even on the coast, there are really not many jobs for expats. I would be quite blunt. There are no jobs for expats. There are, unless you want to work physically with the olives, which is backbreaking work. Really, there are very few jobs. So the only jobs you can find around is as an English teacher. But you have to remember that in a small village or a small town, there is really usually a demand for 2 or 3 native speaker English teachers who keep those jobs for decades. Yeah. So if someone new comes in, it's very, very difficult. So our idea from the start was to start a bed and breakfast, which we then transferred into a guest house, and so we do the Airbnb. That's an idea that a lot of people around here have. Lots of my Dutch friends have their own Airbnbs, and the thing what you find out, you imagine yourself running the guest house and being the jovial hostess. This is all very good from May until end of October, because in reality there's not many people visiting Spain in the winter, or in fact right now we've had a terrible downfall in this industry. So you really have to, what we found out very quickly after the second year is that you have to have your eggs in many baskets. So in the winter when we don't have guests, I occasionally write textbook. My husband is a translator, so we can get by. But I started teaching a little bit, and this way you can survive. So you manage it, but it's not all at the same time. In the summer we don't teach, so we can run the guest house. In the winter we focus on the academy. Then on the weekends you do your writing and translating. So there's a lot of involved.
Yeah, looking for different ways, as I said before, to make a living. And that's it. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I suppose that a lot of people come down here retired, so it's not really an issue. But if you are coming down here and you still are an active worker, you have to be aware of those pitfalls, for lack of a better term, to keep in mind. Yeah.
Well, and also I think you have to think of what could be attractive to people around here. I know a lot of businesses like massage therapy, yoga, retreats, pop-up cooking workshops. Some of them are successful. Some are more kind of, they can be popular in a big city, but not really in a small town. You won't get enough customers or enough interest. And I think one thing I can mention, if anyone wants ever to start a B&B or something like this in Spain, is the prices, again, are much lower here. So if you come from the UK and you imagine yourself opening a rural guest house and charging £100 a night, that's not going to happen. In Spain, here in Andalucía, price per night is between 50, maximum €70 a night. So you have to think of that. It's not super profitable business.
No. And do you get any help from the regional governments down there? Do they try to promote this type of business? Do they give you, the chance to advertise your businesses through them? Do they provide any support? Are there any grants?
Well, now that we've had the pandemic, the government has been very supportive, and all the legal bed and breakfast and guest houses have been receiving some support. And then the support differs from town to town. For example, the town of Alcalá la Real, that has a very big castle, they often reach out to us, send us promotional materials like freebies for guests and so on. Other towns, that really depends on how the tourism office in the individual town manages, if they reach out on some. But it's mostly you have to do it on your own,
Okay.
There is not much help, to be honest, yes.
All right,
So,
great, yeah. So the book you write, The Crinkle Crankle Wall.
yeah.
There we go again. What's the future? I think you said that that's just part one. So you're gonna keep writing?
Yes, I'm writing the second part right now when we focus more on the time when we opened our guest house and the experience of learning about hospitality and promoting your business here, and the different problems we face there. The big problem of making sure we have enough water.
Yeah.
Because the time when we started our business, there was a terrible drought, and for 2 years we had really no water in our house. So that's created a lot of funny situations, running a bed and breakfast with no water supply. So it's kind of about the second year and different all the different people we meet in the second year, learning Spanish and stuff like that. Yes.
All right, great. So we'll put a link to the book below so people can check that out if they want, and they can also follow you on your webpage. I think you've got a blog as well.
Well, yes, if people want to read some samples about olive picking or exploring Montefrio, they can join my blog, sabrinaostrowska.com, or they can just follow me on Facebook, which is a much easier name, which is sabina.o.writer. Okay, and you can also catch us on Instagram, where you can see pictures of nature from around here. It's Cortijo B. Cortijo with a J, of course.
All right, great. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there looking to have a similar experience. So we'll leave those links for people if they want to check you out. So Sabina, it's been great speaking to you. We'll wrap the interview up there, and I hope all goes well. And when that second book comes out, we'll be in contact again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, see you later.
Hasta luego.
So there we go. That was the interview with Sabina. Don't forget to check out her book. There's a link in the description below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.